Guys are doing well. Welcome to drboycetv.com, the home for intelligent Black people. My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins. So good to see everybody. And as you come in, I am in sunny Los Angeles. This is my last day. We did a Black Wealth training camp this weekend. And today I'm going to talk about the banks. I just read some stuff in the Wall Street Journal that I want to analyze for you guys. To let you guys know that things are not as sunny in banks as we might think. And also, there could be some problems with banks that emerge from the commercial real estate market. Also, if you stay to the end of this video, I will give you my profit alert for today. It's a stock that I just bought shares in, and I'll share that with you if you'd like to take a look. So get comfortable, buckle up your seatbelt. We're going to get started on drboycetv.com right now.
Here we are, clan the isms, cataclysm, great. Our people out here struggling, trying to make it in this state. Everybody out here doing it, but we the ones who late. Now family, we the ones who gotta delegate. Get that money in the power, never be fake. Stick to cosign for 3. What did he say? Create jobs, support our own. Educate the same and buy back your home. Got 3 degrees, triple 10. 3 PhDs, now we on the CNN. DBTV, let's talk about negligence. Ignorance is bliss, but we can turn it to intelligence. Believe none of what you hear, half of what you see. Let's break it down here on Dr. Boyce TV. Here we are.
Good afternoon, everybody. I hope you guys are doing well. Welcome to drboycetv.com, the home for intelligent Black people. My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins. I'd be curious to know, can you guys tell me if you can hear me? If you could give me a quick audio check, let me know if you can hear me okay. I want to make sure I'm coming through all right. So give me a yes in the chat if you can hear me all right. And also, if you are an audio file, and you like audio version of this podcast, you can actually go to Spotify and look up the Dr. Boyce Breakdown or Boyce Watkins, whichever one you prefer, and you will find me on Spotify. We just crossed over 1 million downloads on Spotify, so that's super cool. We have almost 500 million views on YouTube, so we've been doing the YouTube thing for a minute, and so we've been in this game. We've been pushing hard, and we have changed the culture on Black economics. And but just know, don't forget, guys, this is only year 13 of the 60-year plan for Black economic domination that I put together in 2010 after I left Syracuse University. Back then, I wrote a book. It's called It Takes a Village to Raise the Bar, A New Paradigm for Black America. And you guys may not remember, but back in that time, I did a tour with Dr. Cornel West joined me in New York. Dr. Steve Perry joined me in D.C. to talk about the educational component of it. And then in 2013, Russell Simmons and I worked together on a campaign to get the Obama administration to change their incarceration policies, because a lot of us don't know that mass incarceration, things like that, have had a massive impact on Black wealth. A lot of your wealth was killed because they locked up so many of your fathers, and they traumatized your community with drugs. Give me a yes in the chat if you've had anybody in your family affected by drugs or incarceration or any of those things. These things are very heavy. And in my book, my new book is called The 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power. I talk about that. And again, I don't know how you feel about Russell Simmons one way or the other, but y'all know me. I'm not going to lie about anybody. I'm not going to make stuff up in terms of what I see. It doesn't matter what people think, but I'll tell you, when I work with Russell, I have respect for him because he was deeply committed to actually doing things. As you guys know, we have a lot of yappers, a lot of talkers, a lot of people that'll talk. And then in hip hop, you see people running around selling clothes and vodka and, and everything else and talking a big game. And I was skeptical at first, but Russell followed through. He really followed through. So if you want to know what happened, and this is related to wealth, you cannot shape wealth without shaping culture. You cannot shape wealth without looking at the sociological issues. Trying to shape wealth without looking at the culture and the damage being done by the culture, it's like trying to educate a kid on math and the kid didn't even eat that morning. If the kid didn't eat that morning and he's getting abused at home and he has nowhere to live, do you really think, give me a yes or no, give me a yes or no, do you really think that kid's going to be able to learn math if they didn't even eat breakfast that morning, if they don't even have love from a parent, if they don't even have a place to live? It's not possible. So one of the pieces of advice I would give to excuse me, Like I love those brothers over at Earn Your Leisure with Invest Fest and everything else. I love it. I think it's great. I love what they're doing with the culture from an economic standpoint. But I encourage them to dig a little deeper. If you really want to elevate that culture, you got to go right at it. You can't be scared. You got to really address these sociological problems. You got to look at your rappers and promoting drug addiction and incarceration and violence and disrespect to women and breaking up families and all that. If you don't address all that, it's going to be real hard for you to build wealth. So I'll finish up the Russell Simmons story. Then I'm going to get to the article that I just read about some things I think you should know about the banking crisis, about a pending problem with banks, most directly connected to real estate. But Russell Simmons in this incarceration campaign. So here's what we did. I wrote a letter to President Obama, and with that letter, we asked Obama to simply do what he promised to do. We asked him, we said, hey, look, Black people supported you. You mentioned that incarceration was going to be an important thing you were going to address. All we're asking you to do is keep your commitment, keep the promise that you made. We're not asking you to do anything radical. We just want you to do the right thing, change, deal with some things like this crack to powder disparity, some of these other issues that are out there. And we got a lot of resistance. It was really tough. I was very surprised, almost disappointed by the amount of resistance we got, to be honest with you. But one thing, so the plan was that I would go get the signatures from all of the scholars and the activists and like HBCU presidents and stuff like that. And Russell would get the celebrities. So Russell was one of the few people in the entertainment space who used the power of celebrities. Russell knows everybody. He knows all the celebrities. I don't hang out in that space, but he does. He knows Hollywood actors, stuff like that. And he delivered. He got about maybe 60 celebrities. The letter's out there somewhere. You can go dig it up if you want to. But I've been talking about, everybody from Will and Jada to even white folks like Justin Bieber. Justin Bieber, actually, believe it or not, when he tweeted that letter, that's what set it off. That's what made the Obama administration eventually fold. And who else was on there? I think Diddy signed it. I don't think Jay-Z and Beyonce signed it. It was hard to get their attention to do this, but Chris Rock and some other people signed it. A lot of good people. I don't remember, even Lil Wayne and Rick Ross signed it, right? So long story short, this was interesting to me because this lets me know the kind of work we're going to have to do, and how we're going to have to be really relentless when it comes to getting what we want, when it comes to really changing society, changing the culture. You cannot be in this game trying to make friends. If you're trying to change your family, if you're trying to break generational curses, if you're trying to move the ship in a different direction, you're going to have to grab that rudder or whatever they call that thing, that steering wheel. You're going to have to turn that sucker, and you're going to have resistance. You're going to have haters. You're going to have Negro naysayers. You're going to have people in your own family telling you that you're being too uppity and you're being radical and what's wrong with you and you're being disruptive and you're rocking the boat. But you got to rock that boat. You got to keep on going. You got to keep on pushing, and you cannot let the opinions of others or small-minded people or short-sighted people or culturally addicted people who are addicted to toxic culture. You cannot let those people talk you out of the destiny that God put before you. So this is my encouragement to you. In your family, you have similar battles. I want you to fight those battles and give me a yes in the chat if you're ready to go, get it done, if you're going to raise the awareness in your own family, if you're getting your children ready for the future, if you're educating the people around you, if you're building for the future. I encourage you. All right, so that's my 2 cents. It's a Sunday morning, so I sounded probably like Pastor Boyce for a minute, but that's okay. Sometimes we need a little bit of preaching to really bring out the power of God. Do you hear what I'm saying? I hope you're hearing this. All right, so anyway, do me a favor, hit that thumbs up button, thumbs up, share, subscribe. If you haven't done that yet, you're watching drboycetv.com, the home for intelligent Black people. Also, don't forget, we have a Telegram page, so if you go to Dr. Boyce Telegram, you can actually join our private Telegram group. It's a Black investors channel, so feel free to go take a look at that on Telegram. All right, and by the way, thank you to everybody who came to LA. We had a Black Wealth training camp in LA. It was great. There wasn't an empty seat in the room. The energy was very high. And in case you want to know, if you missed it, we're actually going to do a digital version of this training very soon. What I'll do is I'll send out a link, so we'll have 48 hours where you can get in for a 48% discount. It's going to be a 6-week Black Wealth boot camp on content monetization, platform building, basically the things that I did to to get millions of followers and literally make millions of dollars that we were then able to invest back in the Black community. We were one of the few people to raise hundreds of thousands of dollars for Dr. Claude Anderson and the Powernomics Corporation. And so this is, we're laying it out there. So if you'd like to join, if you have a platform you're building, or you have a business you're growing, or you want to build a brand or get your name out there, whatever it is, I'll tell you that my secrets. I'll tell you what I've done for the last 12, 13 years. And so I'll let you know. If you want to get alerted when we offer that discount, get on our text list. You can get on our profit alerts list if you want to. Just text the word stock to 31996. You can text stock to 31996. That's a good way to get on the list, because some of you are here actually because you got a text from me. All right, so let's get started here. All right, so here's what led me to go live today and talk to you guys about this. There is a did somebody say I'm the Tupac of finance? That's hilarious. Well, Tupac is one of my favorite rappers, and he was brilliant. So in fact, I hated the fact that Tupac died so young, because Tupac would be a billionaire right now. And in fact, actually, a lot of people don't know how that's related to wealth. When Tupac was killed, they literally killed $1 billion asset. That was economic warfare. And so when Biggie got killed, after Pac got killed, in retaliation, apparently, that was basically them saying, okay, you killed our $1 billion cash cow. We're going to kill your $1 billion cash cow. And give me a yes if you understand this. If Biggie and Pac were alive, they would actually both be billionaires right now, because they were the originators. They were bigger than Jay-Z, bigger than a lot of the people, bigger than Dr. Dre, all this stuff. And the reality is that if you don't have the ability to have conflict resolution, this is why our kids need to learn this in school at an early age. If you don't have the ability to engage in conflict resolution, you'll lose wealth every time. Like Denzel Washington said in the movie Crimson Tide, his character said that the enemy of war is war itself. Now, look, I want you to process that for a minute. The enemy of war is war itself. When you're fighting with your loved ones, you're fighting with your spouse, you're fighting with your parents, you're fighting with your kids, you're fighting with your brother, your cousin, whatever, and y'all can't resolve that stuff. Y'all can't sit down like grown-ups and work it out. You're losing wealth. You're losing opportunity, because you're losing a teammate. That's like your right arm fighting with your left arm. If your right arm and your left arm hate each other, and they say, I can't be on the same body as this person, you're going to have to cut. It's either me or him. You either cut off your left arm or cut off your right arm. Well, either way, you're going to have one less arm. And the body's not going to be as effective because you cut off your limbs. Do you get what I'm saying? So effectively, I want to encourage you. I know I talk about stuff that seems so woo shishi. I forgot what the term is, but it sounds like it's weird and from another planet. When I talk about things like therapy and all that, my wife's a therapist, but I'm telling you, we have to deal with the trauma. We have to deal with conflict resolution so that we can stop throwing our opportunities away and throwing away our wealth. A lot of you have thrown away, many of us have thrown away $1 million, $1 billion opportunities because, you're fighting with the very people who would be the best teammates in the world for you. And so sometimes it's a matter of sitting down, chilling out, not being triggered, putting your ego to the side and committing yourself to something bigger than yourself. And this is not the culture. This is not what's out there. The culture is very selfish. The culture is very look at me, look at me. The culture is very, my needs are the most important needs, and I got to do what's best for me all the time. I don't believe none of that. I submit every day to my family. I submit every day to my marriage. I submit every day to my team. I submit every day to my purpose. I submit every day to God. I submit constantly. And I want you to go online. I want you to hear some of these ridiculous relationship gurus out here telling you that you should never submit. You ain't got to submit. You ain't got to submit to nothing. You ain't never got to settle up. Well, people like that, they end up lonely. They end up isolated. They never get anything done because they don't have a team. So I would encourage you, pick the things that matter to you and submit to those things. If you're trying to lose weight, then you need to submit to your damn diet. If you're trying to be smarter, you need to submit to those books. If you're trying to level up, you need to submit to your goals. Everybody has to submit to something. If you're trying to stay married, you need to submit to the marriage, not so much to the spouse, but submit to the marriage. That means checking your ego at the door. That means doing what you got to do. When you get in an argument with your spouse, you can either be right or stay married. You got to have to make that choice. Okay. That's just grown man talk. Hopefully that'll help somebody. I encourage you to be the best person you can be. All right. So anyway, let me read this article. Let me hop into this. Anybody who wants to be a smart aleck today can put in the comments. He gets to the topic of banks at the 1405 mark. And actually, as we go into the bank part, I promise you guys the profit alert of the stock that I like. The stock that I just bought is ChargePoint, the ticker symbol CHPT, ChargePoint. So I can share that with you in case you just came in to find out what stock that I was going to share with you. And if you want to hear about the real estate and the banking thing, I can you can stay for that too. Hit that thumbs up button, thumbs up, share, subscribe. All right, so this article is in the Wall Street Journal, and it says here, this is important. It says that real estate doom loop threatens America's banks. So basically, they said that banks right now could be in trouble because of what's going on in real estate, particularly the commercial real estate market. The commercial real estate market has some risk factors that have emerged that are quite alarming, and it hasn't happened yet, but it could occur in the near future. In fact, I almost guarantee that these problems are emerging because they're already real. I watched a podcast with some billionaires. I forgot which one it was. And there was a guy who said, I own a $15 million building. And I tried to basically re-up the loan. He wanted to refinance that building, which, where your old loan expires and you get a new one. He said, I couldn't refinance my building. He said, instead of offering me a $15 million loan, they offered me $2.5 million. And then on top of that, them only offering them 2.5 instead of 15, he said they asked me to collateralize all that. He said I had to put up $2.5 million worth of stock as collateral on the loan. And so he said, you know what? I just decided, why would I do that? That's a terrible deal. So I'm just going to buy the building. So that's what he did. He just bought the building. But most people couldn't do that. Most people don't have the cash available to just go buy the building. A lot of people end up defaulting. And so a lot of these defaults are basically spilling over into the banking system. When people default and they give their business or their property over to the bank, well, the bank ends up taking some sort of a loss. So effectively, this is what's happening in commercial real estate. I connect this to the pandemic. I think the way business was handled in the pandemic was just terrible. There were so many economic problems that occurred during the pandemic that will never go away. Did y'all know that? How many of y'all knew that? I got to double check this. How many of y'all knew that U.S. government debt went up by 90% since the start of the pandemic? Did y'all know that? It almost doubled. Almost doubled. And a lot of this was so unnecessary. It was so unnecessary. Anyway, all right, so let me read this. It says regional banks' exposure to commercial real estate is more substantial than it appears. And this is a big red flag too. When you have what they call this, maybe you might call it a black swan event, but I don't even know if this would be a black swan event. But information that wasn't public that's suddenly revealed, that has huge financial implications. That's what's happening with your banks. So it says here, Bank OZK had 2 branches in rural Arkansas when Chief Executive Officer George Gleason bought it in 1979. The Little Rock lender today has billions of dollars in commercial real estate loans, including for properties in Miami and Manhattan, where it is helping fund the construction of a 1,000-foot tall office and luxury residential tower on Fifth Avenue. Regional banks across the country followed a similar playbook. So a lot of the banks, there's a lot of one of my dissertation committee members named Professor David Hirschleifer used to write about something called the herding effect. And basically what happens is that people and companies have this really weird habit of following the crowd. And there's some logical reasons why they do it, but some of it's illogical. In fact, psychologists say that about 70 to 80% of all people will follow the crowd, even when the crowd is wrong. Right. So I don't really appeal to people that think that way, because I encourage you to think critically. I think that following the crowd is very dangerous, especially when you're Black, because I don't think our systems in society are designed to empower Black people. I think they're designed to commodify and use Black people. So I think it's very dangerous for a Black person to follow the crowd, because you're basically following sheep that are being led to slaughter in a very systematic way. Anyway, what's interesting, though, is that it's not just human beings that follow the crowd. Companies and CEOs follow the crowd. Banks follow the crowd. And part of the logic of why they follow the crowd is that there's a huge risk you take when you don't do what everybody else does. Give me a yes if you've ever had this experience where you tried to do something that was different from everybody else, and you felt like you had to succeed. Like maybe you're trying to start a business and nobody in your family believes it's going to work, or you want to move to California and everybody thinks you're crazy for doing it. And you have this pressure like, oh my God, I cannot fail. Because why do you feel that way? Why do you feel nervous about failing? You feel nervous because you got, these like Negro naysayers sitting there just watching, ain't doing nothing, ain't helping, ain't taking no chances in their life, but they're sitting there watching you just so they can get a chance to say, I told you so. Just so they can say, see, I told him I told him start that business was crazy. I told him, your broke cousin, they ain't never made a nickel, can't live without their job. Like you're trying to do something different. You're saying, okay, let me just explore. And they're sitting back saying, I told you so, right? Give me 1 second, guys. I got to cough really quick. Hold on for a second. Hold on. Okay, I'm back. Y'all got to forgive me. Sometimes when the Negro naysayer energy enters the room, it causes me to choke. That's the spirit of the Negro naysayer. It's very strong up in here right now. So let me get that out of here. I got to spray some incense or something. Anyway, so the point is to say that this is one of the reasons why not just Black people, but a lot of human beings are afraid to leave the crowd, because leaving the crowd is very risky, right? So let's say that the crowd is wrong and you know that going left is bad. And you're like, wait, we shouldn't go left. We should go right, right? And let's say that you just follow the crowd and you say, okay, I'm going to go left because everybody else is going left. Well, if you go left and everybody gets slaughtered, or everybody loses money, or everybody gets screwed over, nobody's really going to isolate you. You understand? Nobody's going to say you were stupid to go left. What are they going to say? What are they going to say? They're going to say, oh, well, of course you didn't know the right way to go because everybody went left, right? So there's safety in numbers. That's why when they say misery loves company, failure also loves company. So when you fail in a crowd, you don't feel as bad, right? But you knew the whole time you should have went right. You know it, but you didn't listen to yourself. You were scared to listen to yourself, right? Because you're like, well, God, if everybody else is doing it, then I should be doing it too. I mean, there's got to be something I'm missing here, right? You don't believe in yourself. You haven't gained that courage to listen to that inner voice. And I can just say this for all intelligent Black people. One of the best pieces of advice I can give you right now is practice listening to that voice, because there's nothing more frustrating in life. This happened to me so much when I was younger. There's nothing more frustrating than when your inner voice tells you to do something and nobody else gets it but you, and then you don't do it, and then you're like, damn, I should have listened to myself. Instead, I listened to Pookie and him, who got me in this stupid situation. Right. That was my experience in my 20s when I was like when I was in graduate school and everything. But by the time I got about 29, I said, you know what? No, I'm listening to me. I'm following this inner voice. I'm going to listen to everybody else. I'm going to take everybody's opinion into account. And then I'm going to make the decision, because y'all going to get me killed up in here. Okay. So following the crowd is safe, even if the crowd fails. But let's say that you go by yourself and you fail. Right? Because here's the thing, especially like you talk about things like starting a business or whatever, there's a lot of risk involved. 86% of Black-owned businesses fail. I've mentioned that to you guys repeatedly. So when you start a Black-owned business, there's a very high probability that things will not work out. Well, if you go off by yourself and nobody else agrees, everybody tells you that it's not going to work or whatever, and then you're carrying all this pressure like, oh my God, I got to succeed, because if I don't, they're going to say I told you so. Well, and then you fail, then people will kind of clown you and ridicule you. Right. And this is where you have to learn that internal fortitude that will give you the ability to accept the disappointment. Just kind of say, you know what? It's all right. It rolls with I'm going to roll with the punches. I'm still going to take chances. It's totally okay. Like that ability to kind of stand on your own and alone, it's tough. It's very lonely. Like I have a very lonely life, in case you don't know. I have lots of friends, lots of people that support me. I know a lot of y'all know me. I walk through LA and I'm running to brothers and sisters on the street who say hello, and I appreciate that. But it's very tough sometimes, because sometimes I got to go up against 100,000 people who are telling me that I'm going in the wrong direction. And I just learned how to not care about that, right? So that allows me to then have unique success, because if you go off by yourself and then you succeed, you can get these opportunities that other people don't get, okay? So effectively, banks, let's go back to banks. Banks basically follow the crowd for the exact reasons that I just expressed to you. It's not always safe as the CEO to go in your own direction, right? So effectively, when this bank started investing heavily in these commercial real estate projects, other banks followed suit. A lot of banks did it because everybody was doing it. Very few people were thinking about the risk. Well, now those chickens are coming home to roost in the form of higher interest rates. These business models were most effective back when interest rates were super low. They don't work as well when interest rates get super high like they are right now. All right, so let me keep reading. Hit that thumbs up button, thumbs up, hit the notification bell also so you'll be notified when we go live. And also you see the URL up here for blackmoney101.com. It's a great training program we have in the Black Business School. Feel free to go take a look at that. Everything has a 100% refund guarantee for the first 30 days if you're not happy, but I know you're going to love it, and it's deeply discounted for you. So if you want to start your wealth building journey and you want to go deeper, there's a lot of good material there, just like the stuff I taught my students in Syracuse, except the price is much, much lower. I think it's, I don't know, I think it's $50, $40, something like that, but you have the material for life. So feel free to go to blackmoney101.com if you want, and just share it with your family too. You don't have to just use it for yourself. You can share it with your family. All right, so let's dig into this. All right, so it says here, with the commercial real estate market now in a meltdown, so they're already establishing here in this Wall Street Journal article that the commercial real estate market is already melting down. They're not saying it's gonna melt down. They said it's already melting down. Those trillions of dollars in loans and investments are a looming threat for the banking industry and potentially the broader economy. Banks' exposure is even bigger than commonly reported. So they're saying that banks actually have more exposure to these problems than what people thought. The bank, and this is bad. When you get that surprise news, that's what really ends up rocking the stock market, stuff like that. It says the banks are in danger of setting off a doom loop scenario where losses on the loans trigger banks to cut lending, leads to further drops in property prices and yet more losses. So the doom loop is like this. Let me explain the doom loop. The doom loop, let me read it again. The doom loop says that when banks lose money on a loan, they then end up having to cut lending because, well, why? Because they're losing money. The risk is higher. Their ability to make loans is not as great as it was before. And when they're not making loans, prices of real estate continuously drop. Why? Well, because all the real estate developers, what do? When you're looking and you're hearing from all the real estate gurus that were showing you how to invest in real estate and all that stuff, some of you are doing that. What were they always telling you to do? They were telling you to go to the bank and get a loan so you could go buy that multifamily property or that commercial property or whatever it is, right? So if banks are not loaning money, that doesn't just slow the economy down, it creates crashes. Well, why? Well, because if there's less money and liquidity floating in the economy, then the prices of assets get bid down. People pay less for assets because they don't have as much access to financing as they had before. So all this extra financing that was out there, that was floating around, where money was easy to obtain, those party days are over. So that push of sort of pushing real estate prices up because so much financing was available, that was basically a bubble. And what's happening now, it appears, is that this bubble is about to pop. I have to keep drinking water. You know what happened the other day? I'm going to tell you a stupid story. I was in my hotel because we were getting ready for the Blackwell training camp. And every time before I go speak, I kind of meditate a little bit so that God can kind of talk to me and tell me what I need to say. And I was eating some lemon heads. And I popped some lemon heads in my mouth, and one of them went right down my throat. And so I was sitting there thinking, oh man, this really hurts, having this thing in my throat. And hold on, give me a second, guys. Forgive me for choking. Hold on. Okay, I'm back. You know what? I may have to end this early because I'm losing my voice and I can't talk right now. So somebody's asking, am I okay? I'm actually not okay. I feel good. The crazy thing is I feel really good. I just started choking. I don't know why. I went to the gym this morning and I worked out and I had a really good morning. But yeah, right now I cannot talk. It's kind of crazy. So y'all have to forgive me. I am going to take my time and I appreciate your patience. So let me sit here for a minute and try to get my voice back. But don't worry, I don't have some sort of terminal illness. So if you hear rumors or something that Boyce is dying, that is not true. I literally just started choking during the podcast. How crazy is that? Isn't that weird? Okay. So let me tell you the story about the lemon head. Okay, so I think I'm back. I think I'm almost back to normal. So I ate this lemon head, right? And this lemon head got into my, I don't know if it would be your esophagus or whatever, but I'm sitting there thinking, man, this really hurts. I'm gonna have to swallow this thing. And the scariest thing happened. I could not swallow it. I thought that it would just go down and I would just kind of be uncomfortable. That thing would not go down. So I had to get up and just like a cat kind of coughing up a hairball, I had to cough this lemon head out of my throat. And it was the weirdest experience ever. And it really got me to the point where I was like, I told my wife, I said, I could have died in a hotel room choking on a lemon head. That would have been crazy. So anyway, I think, you know what I think happened is I think that whatever damage might have occurred as I was trying to swallow this thing that wasn't swallowable, it's still in my throat, and I think that's what you guys were hearing. So thank you for allowing me to have those two very awkward minutes of me just coughing repeatedly, even though I'm trying to talk. All right, so let's get back to the banking thing. All right, thank you all. I appreciate your patience. Thank you so much for watching. Okay, or hanging out with me. All right, so here. So let's get back to the banking thing. So it says here in this Wall Street Journal article that Bank OZK hasn't pulled back from lending, but it has started to see signs of market trouble. In January, a developer defaulted on a roughly $60 million loan from Bank OZK after construction costs escalated, the bank said. The loan was considered relatively safe because it was far below the building site's value of $139 million in 2021. In December, a new appraisal put the property's value at $100 million. So this building literally dropped in value by $40 million. Okay. And this is not just one example. This is more systematic. And so, and I thank you, Gilbert, for giving me the chance to end the live. I think I can actually make it through. I think I'm good because I think I feel better now. I don't know why. I was eating some street corn from yesterday, and so maybe that was part of it. I have no idea why that was just weird. All right, so what they said here is that the bank is effectively stuck with the property. Buying land in the current unstable environment is not something that a lot of people will do. Gleason, the CEO, said during an April earnings call. Bank OZK declined to comment. Now, I'm going to show you all a chart really quick. If you're listening on Spotify, you won't see this chart, but I'll describe it to you. And this is from the Wall Street Journal. And also those of you on Instagram, you won't see it, but I'll just tell you what's on it. And you can see here that you have a cumulative change in real estate exposure since March 2015 based on bank size. So here at the bottom, they have large banks, and you can see large banks really increased their real estate exposure substantially. But regional and local banks went even further. And this is the $1.5 trillion mark. So the total bank exposure to real estate right now is, let's see, I think it's just, I want to make sure. Okay, it's all real estate, not just commercial. Is $1.5 trillion. Regional and local banks took on a ton of that. And so what they're basically arguing is that this could cause a crisis, particularly amongst banks that are not sort of the JP Morgan type banks and stuff like that. So let me keep reading here. It says today's troubled market, fueled by rising interest rates and high vacancies, follows years of boom times. Banks roughly doubled their lending to landlords from 2015 to 2022 to 2.2 trillion. Okay, so that only said 1.5 trillion. So I guess the other 0.7 trillion is from another sector. Small and medium-sized banks originated many of these loans, and all that lending helped push up property prices. So again, as I mentioned earlier, when banks are loaning money, prices of assets go up. Why do prices of assets go up? Well, because the price of an asset is determined by what someone's willing to pay for it. So if there's a lot of funding available, then people are willing to pay more because they say, oh, I can go to the bank and borrow the money. This is also one of the reasons that college tuitions really shot up once they made funding available. Once the government started offering loans to 18-year-olds and their families to go pay for college, well, the university said, okay, well, we can charge whatever we want because people will pay insane amounts of money to go to college because we've been convinced that you have to go to college if you want to have a successful life. I'm not anti-college at all. You guys know my background as a college professor, but this actually it's interesting because that effect that they thought they were having by helping people access college was really kind of a massive money grab for the universities. Like, so when they, and in fact, when they do student loan forgiveness, if they ever do anything, which I don't think they're going to do much, to be honest with you, but if they ever do that, it's interesting to me because the government's going to take on that burden. Taxpayers will take on the burden. Universities won't take on the burden. I think universities should take on the burden. But anyway, so the presence of debt causes the value of assets to go up, right? So another way to look at an example would be, imagine if I was selling a candy bar and everybody in here was hungry. And so let's do a pretend auction really quick. Let's say that I'm auctioning a candy bar right now, right? And you're hungry. There's no other way to get access to a candy bar. And you can only, here's the rule. You're only able to pay the amount of money that's in your pocket right now. So everybody, let's bid on this candy bar. So imagine you're hungry. There's no other food. You can only pay the money that's in your pocket. What would you bid? And so everybody bid in the chat. How much would you bid for this candy bar? I'm going to sell it to the highest bidder. Give me a bid price. But the rule is that you can't bid more than the amount of money in your pocket. Somebody says choose something healthy. I know, right? That would be a better example, but let's do candy bar. Candy bar's fun. All right, Albert bids $2. Anybody want to outbid Albert? Albert's bid $2. Okay, Neek says 20. Okay, wow, that's big. Okay, big money, Neek. That's your new nickname. Okay, wow, thank goodness says 100. Now remember, you can only bid the monies in your pocket. So this is an honor system. So you sitting around with thousands of dollars in your pocket, I'm gonna think you're lying. Melinda bids 5. Okay, L Stokes bids $1. Deja bids 25. Lady Shay bids 25. Let's see. Thank goodness I'm black bid 100. Oh, that's right. So right now, thank goodness I'm black is the big spender in the room. I don't think anybody's gonna outbid $100. Anybody outbidding $100 right now, based on the money in your pocket? And imagine that you're hungry. Oh, and you can only bid the money that you have. Okay, Shanice bid $400. Okay, that's wow. Look at you. Go ahead, girl. All right. Okay, so let's go ahead and stop the bidding. Team Bernard says $400. All right, so Team Bernard and Shanice, we're gonna just split it. Y'all gonna split the candy bar in half. All right. So let's get to the point of this exercise. Right. So $400 is the highest bid. Now let's change the rules. Let's assume that I bring in a bank and the bank says I will loan you any amount of money up to $10,000 for this candy bar. Now remember, you're hungry now. Like you haven't eaten in 3 days, and we don't know when any other food's coming. So you really want to eat, right? How much would you bid then? Would anybody outbid $400? Again, you're starving. You're like on your last leg. You need to get something to eat. How much would you bid for that? And maybe let's say it's not even a candy bar. Like, we could pretend like it's I don't know, a plate of chicken or something, right? How much would you bid at that point? Would anybody outbid the four? Okay, thank goodness some black bids $425. Anybody want to outbid? Okay, Lady Shay says she'll go up to 1,000. Okay, anybody outbid 1,000? Anybody want to bid more than 1,000? Remember, this is going to be debt, but it's going to be like a 30-year loan, so you got to pay it over the next 30 years. So you don't have to pay it on it. Jay Lilly says 6,500. Okay, so let's end the exercise now, and let me explain what I just did. What I wanted to show you is that the value of that asset, that candy bar, that plate of food, whatever it is, Tony Douglas bids 10,000. Right? Notice how the value went up. The amount people were willing to pay went up because there was financing available. You understand? So debt increases asset prices, and sometimes it can create a bubble where you're bidding far more than what the asset's actually worth because you can borrow money from the future. So this is why debt is a powerful thing for an economy in terms of booming the economy, but it's a very risky thing because those bubbles can also be burst. So effectively, real estate had the same effect. When interest rates dropped and there was all this money available and all these loans people could get, well, that pushed up real estate prices to really unsustainable, unreasonable, ridiculous levels, just like you had, college tuition being pushed up because so much funding, so much lending was available. So effectively what they're saying, though, is that this lending is drying up. So when the lending dries up, asset values start to drop, because the value of an asset is determined solely pretty much by what someone is willing to pay for it. So when my brother bid $10,000, or Ernest, it looks like Ernst is bidding $10,100. So when Ernst bid $10,100, technically the value of that candy bar was $10,100, right? It's not about what it's intrinsically worth. It's about what it's worth in that particular market. Okay, in that market where everybody's hungry and everybody needs to get access to this candy bar, and let's say it's a special candy bar. I don't know. It's Tupac's. It was the only candy bar that Tupac ever had, or I don't know, something. It was preserved in the freezer, so it's you can still eat it. Well, maybe that makes it valuable, right? But it's all depending on the market. It's all depending on the amount of financing that's available. So effectively in real estate, what's happening now is that banks are getting to the point where the loans that they made that inflated the value of these properties are not necessarily being repaid for a couple of reasons. One, higher interest rates from the Fed is making it harder for banks to be, or for businesses to be able to pay back their loans. Number two, there's increased vacancy rates. Remember, the pandemic destroyed the downtown of a lot of cities. If you live downtown, especially on the West Coast, some parts of the Northeast, downtowns were decimated during the pandemic. So a lot of this commercial real estate doesn't have the value that it used to have. So they're giving that property back to the banks. They're just doing the math and they're saying, we just don't see any reason to continue because we can't even afford to do this in a profitable way. So banks are being stuck with this distressed property, which is reducing their values, which then puts them in a weird loop because higher interest rates also puts pressure on their ability to draw depositors. Right? Because if interest rates are going up, your depositors are going to say, okay, what you got for me? Now, maybe 4 years ago, I would have accepted, your 0.5% interest on my savings account. But now I need 5%, 5.5%, whatever. So banks are having to pay more money to keep the deposits that keep the bank functioning. Okay? So banks are in trouble for basically that reason. And a lot of it's stemming directly from real estate. But of course, when banks slow down their lending and then also the headlines come out, banking crisis, blah, blah, blah. Well, that further deflates consumer confidence. It further deflates the confidence of businesses. It further deflates the confidence of investors, which could lead to some economic problems that are broader. It could create what Professor Andrew Caroli, who's on my dissertation chair, he's at Cornell now, he called that financial contagion. The same way you spread a virus, financial viruses spread just like regular viruses spread. So this is something that is a risk factor. It's something worth paying attention to. It's something to be really careful about. And if you do see that crisis and you see these prices drop, then what I'll do is I'll keep researching. And if I see stocks or something that I think are good buys or good opportunities, I'll let you know. But remember, every situation provides an opportunity. Never walk around in fear. Never invest out of fear. Okay, so do me a favor. Hit the thumbs up button. Thumbs up, share, subscribe. TheBlackBusinessSchool.com. We have 156,000 students around the world. You can actually get access to a lot of stuff from us for free. So if you'd like to take a look and you'd like to jump in and hang out with us, just go to TheBlackBusinessSchool.com. Every Wednesday night, we do Powernomics training. That's 100% free. And we've been doing this for about 2.5 years. So you can feel free to join us. Go to BoyceWatkins.com also. If you'd like to see some of the other things we have the $5 a day investing plan. I have a training on how to make money without working, things like that. For those of you that have asked to meet with me one-on-one, I do about 2 or 3 one-on-one consultations per month. So if you'd like to get one or sign up for one, you can go to Chanel@BoyceWatkins.com. The email address is right here, and she can get you scheduled. Or if you'd like for me to come do a training at your church or with your family investment club or whatever, I do some of these on Zoom, and I can also do some live. There's a fee, of course, but if you're interested and you want to look into that, feel free to go to or email Chanel. I'll leave her email address up here if you want to write it down. All right, so let me read a little bit more, and then we're going to kind of conclude on this. So, and by the way, if you came in for the profit alert, the stock that I mentioned earlier is ChargePoint. ChargePoint. So never forget, though, this is not investing advice. Investing always involves risk, so make sure you understand that. But ChargePoint is a stock that I just bought if you'd like to take a look at that. All right, so Bank OZK's success over the years allowed Gleason to build himself a 27,000 square foot French chateau-style mansion in Little Rock, which he filled with a vast collection of European art. Okay, let me keep going. Over the past decade, banks also increased their exposure to commercial real estate in ways that aren't usually counted in their tallies. They lent to financial companies to make loans to some of those same landlords, and they bought bonds backed by those same types of properties. So not only were banks loaning directly to real estate developers, they were loaning money to finance companies that were loaning money to real estate developers. Do you follow me? So they had direct exposure and indirect exposure. So they said this indirect lending, along with foreclosed properties, trading portfolios, and other assets linked to commercial properties, brings banks' total exposure to commercial real estate to $3.6 trillion, which is 20% of their deposits. The volume of commercial property sales in July was down 74% from a year earlier. So the properties are not moving. People are not able to sell like they want to. And sales of downtown office buildings hit the lowest level in the last 2 decades, according to data provider MSCI Real Assets. Did y'all hear that? So this is a 20-year mark. They haven't had such little business in terms of selling commercial property since 2003. Okay, 20 years. So this is speaking. This is sort of reeking of a potential problem. Let me keep reading here so we can figure out what else is going on. Let's see here. When deals begin again, they will be at far lower prices. Again, that's what defines a crash, when prices drop. So when they start the deals back up again, the prices are going to be lower, which is when the shock will be acknowledged at that point. So Michael Comparetto, head of commercial real estate at Benefit Street Partners, a debt-focused asset manager, says it's going to be really nasty. Now, those are his words. It's going to be really nasty. Lending is the lifeblood of all real estate, and regional and community banks have long dominated commercial real estate lending. Their importance grew after the 2008 financial crisis, when the country's biggest banks reduced their exposure to the sector under scrutiny from regulators. Low interest rates made higher yielding real estate loans lucrative to hold. So because interest rates were low at that time, it was really beneficial for these banks to make lots of commercial real estate loans. That strategy now appears risky after the Federal Reserve raised interest rates. Banks are under pressure to pay depositors more to keep customers from fleeing to higher yielding investment alternatives. Without cheap deposits, banks have less money to lend and to absorb losses from loans that go bad. Depositors withdrew funds from many smaller regional lenders earlier this year after the collapse of 3 mid-sized banks stoked fears of a system-wide crisis. The doom loop scenario is starting to play out in big cities where office vacancies have soared. Like I said earlier, remember we were talking about that? We were talking about some of the West Coast cities and stuff like that. I went out to Seattle. The people that I met in Seattle when we were doing the training were telling me that downtown has completely transformed. It's now not so much like a horrible place, but they said things were happening downtown that had not really ever happened before. The plumbing is clogged right now, says Scott Rechler, chief executive of real estate investor RXR, and that is going to create a backdrop that will eventually overflow on the commercial real estate markets and on the banking system. When Rechler asks banks to refinance his office loans now, few respond. So few banks are helping him refinance. The refinancing, the debt is the lifeblood of the business. In some cases, he said it's not even worth trying. He had a $240 million mortgage due on a 33-story office building in Lower Manhattan. Vacancies were high. Renovating and converting the building would be expensive, and the cost of a new mortgage was way up. He ran the numbers and decided to default on the loan. RXR said that it's been working with the lender to market the building for sale, to repay the loan at a discount, and that they have discussed possible loan modifications, blah, 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 blah. So I hope you get the point. The point is that commercial real estate is in trouble, which means banks will be in trouble because banks are in bed with the commercial real estate developers. I see where Miriam says, I believe they're going to turn the commercial real estate into luxury apartments to address the housing crisis. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out, right? Because if you're addressing the housing crisis with luxury apartments, it definitely wouldn't seem to solve the homelessness issue, right? Because, homeless people aren't going to buy the luxury apartments. And I'd be curious to sort of see how that all plays out. I mean, obviously they have to find some other use for all those buildings, but it's really sort of shifting the dynamics of the entire economy, and it could spread and become contagious and affect other parts of the economy as well. All right, so let's see here. Old man says, Doc, please pace yourself. It's hard to follow your message when you jump all over the place. We need the info. Your personal brain dumps take away from the impact. Please try to stay on topic. Okay, thank you for that feedback. I appreciate that. All right, next question. I can understand you well. I learned that college professors talk real fast. We would tape the lectures and abbreviate our notes. Yeah, sometimes I talk fast, but you know what I do actually that's a little cheat code is I repeat myself a lot. So I might say it, and you might miss it, but just wait around. I'll eventually repeat it. Okay, so let's see. Will residential real estate be affected? I think that it will. Dr. Bingham, I would be very surprised if it was not. And so the general message is very, very basic. The general message is that commercial real estate is struggling. That could affect banks. If banks start struggling, that affects the entire economy. Give me a yes if that message gets through. Give me a yes if you understand that. Everything else is kind of just the details that sort of fill in those voids. But that's the general idea. So that means that if you're a stock market investor, you may want to be on the lookout for this. I still recommend, being consistent and dollar cost averaging and things like that. Things like the $5 a day investing plan still work. They do extremely well. And also, again, if you want me to keep sending you profit alerts, or if you want our $5 a day investing plan or things like that, just text the word stock to 31996. You can text the word stock to 31996. And I also hope you guys will join us this year. We're getting very close to the All Black National Convention that's going to happen in Atlanta, October 20th. And so if you'd like to join us, we have over 40 experts that we're bringing in this year. And we keep it intimate in the sense that we don't want a massive event. We don't want a massive convention kind of thing. We actually want something that's more like a conference feel, more like a small family reunion. So there will be, a few hundred people there, but we don't really, our goal is not to have thousands of people there because it's too big. And also the B1 community, I want it to be a different kind of community. I don't want just any and everybody there. I don't want everybody's energy. I want to be around people that believe in family, that believe in love, that believe in intelligence, that actually want to grow. Those are the people. So if you're in that category, then these are your people. So feel free to join us. Go to allblacknationalconvention.com. I think the vendor spots are sold out. But if you want to be a sponsor, I think there may be a couple sponsorships available, for select businesses if you're interested. And also, you can bring your whole family. So I almost choked again. Did you hear that? All right. So anyway, let me look at some more of your comments. Eddie Knox says, I concur. I reside in the California. All they do is talk about housing the homeless every time they build luxury housing. Yeah, it's kind of BS, Eddie. I agree with you. I'm going to tell you, I learned a lot when I did that tour, when I went to Iceland and then Denmark. Let me just tell you, when I went to Iceland, I didn't see a single homeless person anywhere. I walked all up and down Reykjavik, all through the streets, and it was very safe. It was very peaceful. It was, and it's just different policy. That's all it is, just different policy. They actually know that these problems are solvable, and if a problem is solvable, they just solve it. In the U.S., we have a lot of solvable problems that we don't solve because we're too busy taking care of corporations that are trying to maximize their profits. That's the issue. So, for example, you had the whole thing with the what was it during the pandemic? I was joking with somebody. I said, "Isn't it so funny how they were telling Black people that the way to solve your health problem is to everybody go get this shot? Like that's it. I'm not saying you shouldn't have got it. I'm just saying that's all you have. Like when you talk about Black health." And you're saying you care about us and you want us to be healthy, the only recommendation you have is everybody get your shots. Everybody get your shots. And you're getting all this, and they're spending billions of dollars marketing this on urban radio all around the country. And I was sitting there thinking, if you cared about Black people, then you would have started 20 years ago, because Black people have always been at the top of the death list in almost every category. We've been dying from preventable stuff, since slavery. Right? So if you really, really cared, you would have preventative health measures in place. You would have things that incentivize people. Like, for example, if I had the budget and I were the governor, president, or whatever, I would love to pass a bill that says, hey, you're going to get an app, and every time you go to the gym and spend an amount of time on the treadmill, you'll get paid, X amount of dollars for every hour that you're on the treadmill. Or if you eat healthy food, the cost is going to be lower for you to eat healthy food than it will be for you to eat unhealthy food. We'll incentivize you to do the things that are going to keep you healthy so that your immune system is strong, so that if some virus comes along, we're not going to tell you, when you're already obese, you're already diabetic, you already got hypertension, you already got all these health problems. Just get this shot. You're going to be okay. When really you get to the point where the damn shot might kill you, because they have to put something in your body in order for you to even build the immune system necessary to fight off a virus. Right. And so, again, I'm not trying to be political with this. What I'm saying is that policy is important, and I don't think we have the right policies. We don't even educate our kids. Chicago had 55 public schools without a single child that could read or do math at grade level. Not one single child. I don't know about y'all, but I think that should be a state of emergency. I don't understand why this is something that people can just gloss over and act like it's not a big deal. That's your whole future in the trash. That's $1 trillion worth of Black wealth thrown in the garbage. Do you understand that your greatest wealth is your people? It's your human beings. It's your children. What do you think slavery was all about? That you're valuable, you're worthy, your kids are meaningful. So if they destroy your kids and your kids have no future and they're not able to productively add to the black economy, then that's throwing multiple trillions of dollars in wealth into the garbage every single year. That's where your wealth went. That's why black wealth isn't growing. That's why black wealth isn't around, because we're looking in the wrong direction. Okay. All right. So Yashika was asking about B1 the movie. Yeah, we've got this new movie called B1 the movie, directed by Rick Mathis. What we're going to do is we're going to show the movie at the convention, first of all. So if you come to the All Black National Convention, we're going to show it there. We did a premiere in Atlanta. Thank you to everybody who came out. I wasn't able to make it. Alicia had COVID, so I was taking care of her at that time. But we're going to show it at the convention. And then we're going to do a black movie night. So everybody in the Black Business School can come and watch the movie free of charge. So if you want to get on the email list for when we make the announcement, just do something basic. You can go to boycewatkins.com and just grab a copy of the $5 a day investing plan or our training, How to Make Money Without Working, or something like that. And what'll happen is you'll be connected in our ecosystem, and we will send you a notification when we're ready to show the movie. The movie's really, really good. A lot of great people are in it. Dr. Claude Anderson, Vicky Dillard, Brother Nuri Muhammad, Akilani Honda, Madam President. A lot of smart people are in this film, and I know you're going to love it. It's a really great movie. So so we are making films, and we believe in developing black industry. And one day when we raise our $100 million or our $1 billion, we've raised over $25 million through the last several years, and we've been able to get a lot of things done. We've been able to train economics to millions of people, stuff like that, without any corporate support, any government support. But what I really want to do is I want to get to that point where we have hundreds of millions of dollars to really get things done. Because what you really need in your community, in my view, is we need school systems. We need to really adequately fund black-owned schools. So if I'm ever, again, I'm probably too dangerous for America because I'm too aware of white supremacy. I'm too clear on the problems in terms of what they do. And also I'm a little cynical about their ability to really solve black problems. I just don't think they have the ability or the political will to do it. So I'm not the guy that would be invited to the table at a reparations conversation, but I'll always be talking to you. So maybe some of you are in those spaces. Some of you may work for your local government. Some of you may be part of your school system. Some of you are in these institutions that people like me may not be invited to. And I don't need to be there. I don't need to be at the table. I don't need to get any attention. I don't need to get any credit. I talk to you because my hope is that I can persuade you that some of these ideas are beneficial. And so that when you're sitting down and they're talking about reparations, what are we going to do with that money? Who's going to get it? What's going to be used for? We need black-owned schools. We have those schools in Chicago. 55 schools in Chicago did not educate a single child to read or do math at grade level. But those schools are getting hundreds of millions of dollars. Think about this. They're spending hundreds of millions of dollars to fund the failure of your children. They're making money from the failure of black children. If this does not alarm you, if this does not upset you, if this does not disturb you, then I need to come to your front door and slap you. I love you, but I'm going to have to slap you. Wake up. This is the death of your community. You're watching your loved ones, your children's future die right in front of your eyes, and a lot of us don't even see it. I'm alarmed by this. And it's not just Chicago, it's all over the country. So my thought is, again, if we're really pushing for something, how about we take all the hundreds of millions of dollars that were put into failing schools and give that money to black teachers and black administrators out here. A lot of y'all, I bet right now, for example, think about this. If I had, and I tried my best to convince Kanye West to help me fund this. He just couldn't see the vision. And it to be honest with you, it angered me. I was like, well, I don't even want to talk anymore. Because I'm trying to explain this to you, but you want to go buy shoes and stuff and silly things but literally if I had $100 million to open, 20 schools or something, and create a board and all this other stuff, how many of you would be very happy to work in one of those schools? Like, how many of you would be very happy to contribute as a teacher, counselor, security guard, carpenter? Like seriously, how many of you would participate in something like that? Give me a guess, right? A lot of you would. A lot of you would say, "Oh, I'm in. What can I do? What can I do?" Right? And the problem though is that when it comes down to being able to give you a fair wage for your time, that takes money. And so yeah, we can say, well, we need volunteers, but volunteering only goes so far. You need an economic engine. You need a source of continuous capital to be able to make sure that your volunteers are not starving to death for the cause, because your volunteers have people that they have to feed, they have bills they have to pay, everybody's got bills. And so here's what kills that whole vision is, number one, you have a very anti-business energy in the community. When there are people that try to galvanize and pull together resources, there are people who just stand there and their goal is to just destroy it, or to say, oh, that Negro, he's stealing, that Negro, he's bad, and he went to jail and he's a terrible person or whatever. And I'm not saying that this things can't be true. I'm just saying that it doesn't create trust. People start saying, well, I'm not supporting that thing because I don't believe, I don't know if it's going to work out, right? And but here's the thing though, right? Like, white people can build these things all the time, and we don't really question any of that. We don't really talk about what white people are doing. We don't talk about what white people are creating and building, but we'll talk about what that black guy over there is doing and scrutinize the hell out of him, or that black woman, like, oh, she ain't da da da, and she's this and that, right? And so that's one of the big problems you have. And then number two, when the government shows up with their money, they got endless resources. They want black kids in school, but they want their people running the school. They want their people, getting the contracts. They want their people as the teachers. They want their people as the principals. They want their people to get the contracts on the books and the meals and everything else. So they're sort of like, we don't really care about black people that much. We just need you around because you're a commodity, right? We make money hoarding millions of your children through our schools. Like, I just need y'all to really, and this is real deep. A lot of people, I don't think a lot of people can really get this, and maybe they're not ready yet. But I need you to really even question the fundamental idea that you believe that you're supposed to hand your children over to somebody else to educate them anyway. Like, really, like, well, who told you that? Who taught us that the first thing I do with my black child is send them over to a white lady to give them an education? So a lot of these problems are so deep that we have to go to the root. You got to dig, like almost like a root canal, where they got to dig to the root of the tooth to get all the rot out of it, right? You can't do surface analysis. You got to dig to the root. You got to do the surgery. So we got to dig to the root of the culture and say, okay, how do we reroot this? And that requires literally starting. If you look at, for example, like this, if you look at it, I remember when there was a little baby that my daughter used to babysit, and he was 3, and he got shot in the head when he was 3, which is crazy. That right there is crazy. That speaks to the trauma in our community. Like, just the idea that I can even say a sentence like that, but it's true. And the guy that shot him was a guy who had argued with his mother, and he didn't go out trying to shoot a baby, but what he did was he got mad at the mother. He went to the house and he just unloaded the clip into the house, and he didn't know that there were a bunch of kids playing inside the house. So the little baby got shot in the head, and the baby died. And I remember when I heard that story, I remember I cried. I cried like a baby. And I didn't just cry for the baby that got killed. I cried for the baby that shot him. Because when you're my age, when you get to my stage, I'm OG status. I'm not 22, I'm 52. A 19-year-old is like not even really a grown-up yet. You kind of are, but your brain's not even fully developed till you're 25. And I can remember, I know 19-year-olds where I remember just yesterday. Anybody know what I'm talking about? Well, you can remember just yesterday when they were like in kindergarten. Like, you remember, like, you look at him and he's big and he's tall and all that, and you're like, man, I remember when you were in the 2nd grade, right? So I remember I was analyzing it, and I said, because when I was analyzing the culture, trying to understand, like, what kind of sick culture do we have where little babies are being shot in the head? Like, how does this happen? How does a person even become so terrible that they would even consider doing something like that? Well, what I did was I did a reverse analysis. I went backward in time. In mathematics, they call this dynamic optimization. That's when you want to solve a problem and you're looking at the end, but you go back to the very beginning, or you actually start at the end and work your way back to really understand the nature of the process that got you to where you were. And so what I did was I imagined that 19-year-old when he was like 4, right? When he was 4, he wasn't trying to kill nobody. He was maybe playing with play guns or something, but he wasn't trying to hurt nobody. He was a baby. He was sweet. He was innocent, just as loving as any child that you're going to find in a daycare, I'm sure, right? And he could have been anything. He could have been Barack Obama. He could have been, an engineer. He could have been a lawyer, doctor, whatever. But somehow along the way, he got turned into a thug. He got turned into a killer. He got turned into a gangster that's going to run out with his wife beater with a gun and pop bullets into a house full of kids, right? And I thought about that. I said, what happened? How did we turn this child into the monster that he became? Because now society's don't see him as a monster. He's going to prison for 100 years or whatever. He's a persona non grata for a lot of people in society. And what I realized, in my view, is that clearly, without a doubt, the nurturing that should have occurred did not happen. Right? Clearly, without a doubt, the times where he reached out for love led to him being greeted by trauma. Right? Clearly, without a doubt, the people that were responsible for turning him into a productive, healthy member of society that would have protected a 3-year-old turned him into the kind of person that would murder a 3-year-old. Right? So what I think we got to do, if we really want to solve this thing, again, I'm a mathematician. That's my background. I believe in solving problems, not just complaining about them. Whining about a problem has never solved a math problem in my life, right? I believe that we have to really look at the root of this, right? So you watch the BET Awards and you see people thugging out and acting a damn fool and doing all kinds of ratchet, crazy stuff. And, I see some of these rappers, some of them are almost hilarious. Like there's this horrifically untalented rapper called Sexy Red. Anybody seen Sexy Red? And I can't even repeat her lyrics here because it's a Sunday and I just don't want to do that because Jesus ain't gonna like it. But really, like go look up, if you ever want some entertainment, go look up Sexy Red. It's the funniest thing. She puts Cardi B to shame. It's kind of crazy, but I just think that we should look at that and say, what happens with our kids when they're young that turns them into whatever they end up becoming by the time they're 20, 21 years old. This is the culture. This is the process. This is the brainwashing. This is what we've been committed to this. So if I was having a newborn baby, let me tell you like this, I would go out of my way to protect my child from all of this. I would protect my child not just from becoming part of it, but also protect my child from the consequences of it. I know Black people who move their children out of the country. I think that's perfectly reasonable if you can do it. I know a lot of Black parents who say, I'm not sending my child to that public school. I ain't gonna let them people brainwash and where they got them talking about sexuality at the age of 6 and having them go to school getting abortions when they're 11 years old and all this other stuff. Like no, my child is not even going to be a part of that. And that means, though, we'd have to reshape our relationship with the world to allow us to even be able to do that. Because remember, over 100 years ago, before there were public schools, parents didn't do that whole, like, I'm going to drop my baby off at school all day so I can go to the office or to the factory all day. They didn't do that. They thought that was weird. They were like, why would you do that? That's going to destroy families. Rockefeller and people like that were very happy to fund public schools because they wanted people to be brainwashed to drop your kids off. Look, let the state raise your child. Do you understand what I'm saying? Let the state take care of your baby so you can come to work, because that makes America more productive for the capitalists. So the capitalists can make more money because now we got women working. Instead of being moms, we got them out here working in the factories. And instead of being at home with your kids, protecting your family, don't worry, we got this. We'll educate your child for you. We'll teach them their values. We'll teach them right from wrong. And now look at what you get. Look at what you get. It's a damn mess. So if I was a new parent, I would do everything in my power with my spouse to find some way to keep my kids as close to me as possible. My fundamental belief is that the number one influence on the child should be the parent. That is the only way you can really accomplish that is with time. And you can't accomplish that with time if you off at work and you spending more time with your boss than you're spending with your child. That's my 2 cents. That's my belief. I know we started talking about the banking thing and all that, but I love kind of digging into the root of this so we can understand what some of the solutions might be. Again, the solutions are not perfect. They may not work for you, but I feel it's important to share this because I don't see a lot of people talking about this, right? I see a lot of people even now. Now I'm happy because we got the whole world talking about wealth, right? That was my goal. In 2007, 2008, they weren't doing that. I go to radio stations. They say, oh, Black people don't want to learn about economics. Now everybody's talking about economics and investing in real estate and all that. I'm very happy to have participated in helping to shape that part of the culture. But the next step in that culture must be a deep-rooted commitment to Malcolm X principles of Black freedom and independence, independence of thought, economic independence, educational independence, not to the point where you separate it, but to the point where you have some real equity and real power in the society. You cannot go into economics just saying, I want to just be like the white boys, or I want to fit in where the white boys are. Like I saw Diddy at InvestFest, and Diddy was talking about his deal with that vodka company or something like that, and he was upset that they didn't treat him right or whatever. And I get it. I'm not making fun of that at all, and I have no issue with Diddy whatsoever. But I will say that that two things. Number one, I wasn't really sure how Diddy getting richer was going to translate into infrastructural adjustments or development within the entire Black community. I don't see. I know that we celebrate Diddy getting richer. We're happy for him, but I'm trying to figure out how that translates to the masses, right? Because I'd love to see Diddy aim to become more like an Elon Musk, where Diddy is employing 100,000 people, right? Because Diddy has been able to secure $10 billion in capital and have factories or manufacturing facilities that are hiring tens of thousands of people and giving people opportunities for equity ownership, things like that. There's nothing wrong with Diddy coming up, but my vision for the future is that when a Diddy comes up, everybody's coming up. The whole hood is coming up. There's no rapper on earth that calls himself a billionaire that should be able to go back to his old community and find that community in the same condition that it was when he left it. That's not appropriate. That's not what you want to aim for. And the other piece of that too is I think that there were some people that were not very sympathetic to Diddy being, feeling hurt by what happened with this vodka company, because they were sort of like, okay, it gives the impression that you're just mad that white people won't bring you into their table. They won't sit you at their table and allow you to become George Clooney or whatever it is, because George Clooney has vodka with that company too. And I think there are people, honestly, and I actually kind of agree with this to some extent. I understand where this is coming from. They're kind of saying, we kind of need you to sort of become your own man anyway. What does that look like, right? You as a billionaire complaining about the same racism on your job that the rest of us are going through, who are working for white people, doesn't really speak to true authentic power. It speaks to a type of complaining that many of us get stuck, in that sort of pattern, a holding pattern. I'd like to see, just us sort of rethink what that should even look like. Again, and I say this though, with all due respect to Diddy, no disrespect to him, no disrespect to Earn Your Leisure, no disrespect to InvestFest. This is just what I've seen people say, and I actually kind of agree with that sentiment. I wish him the best, though. I hope that they give him everything he wants, because he deserves it. He's very important for their company, and there's a lot of money that I'm sure they're making off their partnership with him. But I think better partnerships for everyone is really where you want to go. And so anyway, there's more I could say. You guys know how I am. There's so many thoughts. One thought stems or spurs another thought. That's just my ADHD. So I apologize for that. And if I talk too fast, then go back and play the video again. It's yours forever. So I can't apologize for that, because I really want to share as much as I can in hopes that it will help you shape the policy in your family. That's the key idea. In your family, I need you to figure out what your policy going to be, what your approach going to be. And the biggest mistake I think you can make is to do what everybody else is doing, because I don't think that's going to help you get where you want to get to. All right. So anyway, thank you so much for listening. It was wonderful speaking with you. And Lisa says you're truly great. Well, I appreciate you too. You're great too. And I love you very much. And Dr. Vibe says, I hope that Los Angeles is treating you and Dr. Alicia fine. Actually, Alicia didn't come to me come with me to LA, but we are going to take another trip together soon. And in fact, my wife, Alicia, is a licensed therapist and a full professor of social work. There's a picture of me and her kissing. It's so funny that when I saw something on the internet, they said, I don't think your wife is into you. Your wife ain't into you. And I said, no, my wife is really into me. She loves me. Don't worry about it. You worry about your woman. I worry about mine. And also I want to give a shout out to Deion Sanders, by the way, for those big wins in Colorado. I want to make it clear with Deion, I didn't like Deion leaving an HBCU. I'd love to see his talents at an HBCU, because I think that great things were destined to happen. But really my concern about it was really out of respect for Deion. It was out of the fact that I think he's such a great man. I just hated seeing the community lose such a great asset. Let me just make that clear. And I think that what he's doing at Colorado is reflective of what I thought he was going to do. I never cheered against him. Like I would never gain anything by hoping that he would fail. And so I was curious to see what he and Travis Hunter and his son Shador could do like Colorado, man. And it is really exciting to watch. I'm a football fan, and those boys been playing some serious football, but they're going to be tested. I looked at their schedule. They have several ranked teams on the schedule. So I think about maybe game 5 or 6, we'll know, how heavy this is. But that first big win was really huge. And congratulations to Dion for pulling it off. I think he's going to be a great coach, and he's a great man in his own way. All right. So anyway, by the way, Alicia's website is coachingwithdralicia.com. If you'd like to see more of what she does, she has lots of workbooks and stuff like that on things like financial trauma, financial anxiety. She also sees clients on an individual and a group basis. And also my website is boycewatkins.com. So if you'd like to get copies of my new book, The 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power, my Black American Money series, or get free stuff, our $5 a day investing plan, or copy my book, It Takes a Village to Raise the Bar, you can go to boycewatkins.com. There's lots of good resources there. So I hope you'll feel free to go take a look. Last but not least, the convention, the All Black National Convention, takes place in Atlanta, October 20th. You can go to allblacknationalconvention.com. That's allblacknationalconvention.com. I hope to see you there. We're going to have investment club meetings. We're going to have prime, those of you that are in the prime program. We're going to have a special meeting for the prime members, stuff like that. So feel free to join us this year. It's going to be super awesome. I just spoke the other day to billionaire Michael Roberts, who's going to join us in the Black Business School. So Michael Roberts, he and his brother have run multi-billion-dollar companies. He's going to become one of our newest faculty members in the Black Business School. So I'll keep you guys posted when we make that announcement of the course that he's going to teach. He's a brilliant guy, and I love him. All right. And so anyway, guys, I'm going to get on out of here. I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Thank you so much for listening. I appreciate your time and attention. I'll check back in with you again real soon. I'll see you later. Peace.
Here we are, clan the isms, cataclysm great. Our people out here struggling, trying to make it in this state. Everybody out here doing it, but we the ones who late. Now family, we the ones who gotta delegate. Get that money in the power, never be fake. Stick to cosign for 3. What did he say? Create jobs, support our own. Educate the same and buy back your home. Got 3 degrees, triple 10. 3 PhDs, now we on the CNN. DBTV, let's talk about negligence. Ignorance is bliss, but we can turn it to intelligence. Believe none of what you hear, half of what you see. Let's break it down here on Dr. Boyce TV. Here we are.